At 7:22 a.m., I tapped my garage remote with a coffee in my mouth and my son's trombone in my other hand. The door climbed up like an eyelid. A silver SUV sat 2 inches from my bumper, nose across my entire driveway, tires turned like it was bracing to stay forever. I froze. My son didn't. "Dad," he said, "we're going to miss jazz band." Across the street, a tan visor lifted like a flag. "Rules are rules," she called. "Until you pay your HOA dues and late fees, the driveway stays blocked." "We're not even in your HOA," I said, trying to keep my voice where the children could live. She smiled the smile people practice in mirrors. Nevertheless, I set down the trombone, reached for the phone I'd taped to the garage wall, for exactly this reason, and hit a contact that lives right under pizza, non-emergency dispatch. "Hi, it's Noah at 208 Juniper," I said. "Driveway obstruction by a neighbor's vehicle. We've got a history, I've got video. No threats, no weapons. We need a civil standby and a tow." "Copy." The dispatcher said, calm as a porch in October. "Units en route." I didn't know it yet, but by dinner that silver SUV would do something I've only ever seen on TV. It would fly, legally, on the hook of a rotator wrecker, then sit exactly 9 peaceful minutes on a patch of grass in front of City Hall while the mayor filmed a public service announcement. But at 7:22 a.m., I was a dad with a late kid, a blocked garage, and the sudden certainty that the visor had mistaken neighborhood for kingdom. We bought the little ranch on Juniper because the big maple out front throws a shadow the shape of mercy. The listing said, "No HOA." The developer put up a sign 3 months later, "Juniper Meadows, a deed-restricted community." You can feel your brain tilt at the difference. Our lot, Lot 14, never signed the covenants. The title says county taxes, period. That should have been the end of it. Then came flyers, optional community amenities, support our clubhouse, pool access for all. Fine, optional. We filled our bird feeder and minded our business. Optional became mandatory in a letter taped to our mailbox. Effective immediately, HOA assessments of 95 month apply to all lots within the boundaries of Juniper Meadows. The covenants the HOA filed did not include our lot. We replied, printed maps, plat, recorder stamp, "We're not subject to your declaration." Carla, the management company's beige voice, wrote back one word that made me want to plant. More maples. Nevertheless, late fees arrived on bills we didn't owe. Amenity suspension notices threatened privileges we didn't have. And then the compliance patrol showed up. Yellow vests, a golf cart, laminated cards that said, "Courtesy warning." They warned me once for garage clutter visible, which is just a sentence that means a life is being lived here. I did what my wife, a neonatal nurse with a spine of braided steel, calls the boring thing. I documented. Doorbell clips, timestamps, letters sent certified. When the blocking started, 3 times in 1 week, different cars, same visor, I printed a copy of the city code and taped it inside the garage. No person shall block a driveway or curb. Cut so as to impede ingress, egress, subject to immediate tow without notice. Fire Code 503.4. No person shall obstruct fire apparatus access roads, including private driveways. I don't like confrontations. I like pancakes. But I also like getting my kid to jazz band. The first time she used her sedan and called it just 5 minutes, which turned into a school hour and a flaming trombone solo in my dashboard. The second time she parked her brother's truck and said, "You should consider this motivation," a sentence that deserves a stamp you never have to lick. The third time, the silver SUV, she came with backup. A man in a polo with the HOA logo like a seal of government, phone out like he was directing traffic for the moon. "Common apron," he said, pointing to my driveway apron, as if pointing makes law. "Private," I said, handing him a copy of the plat. Nevertheless, he smiled, and I heard it weld itself to the moment. The police rolled up soft. No siren, no show. Officer Diaz stepped out with a weariness that always reads like kindness in uniform. "Morning, Noah," she said. "Same vehicle?" "Different," I said. "Same visor." Diaz walked to the SUV, tapped the window, and nodded at the visor. "You can't block their driveway. City code." The visor folded her arms into a geometry that dared physics. "We are enforcing dues." Diaz didn't blink. "That's a civil issue. Blocking a driveway is not. Move it, or it's towed." The visor swung the keys out, jangled them in a way I imagine she thinks communicates power, and moved the SUV exactly the distance of a single sigh, then rolled it forward again as soon as the cruiser turned the corner. The trombone made a sound I judged and then forgave. Diaz called me an hour later. "Document everything," she said. "We'll brief traffic. If it happens again, we can escalate. Tow without notice is lawful on obstruction." It happened. Again. The third block earned a citation and a tow to a lot that smells like choices. The visor paid the fees and filed a complaint with the HOA about harassment by city services, which is a phrase that makes sense only if you've never read anything. Then she parked the silver SUV across my driveway and took the bus to work. At lunch, I visited the fire station because my father raised me to bring donuts to people who know where the hydrants are. Lieutenant Delgado, a human shaped like a trustworthy oak, walked me through the code. Driveways are fire apparatus access. They cannot be obstructed. Immediate removal is allowed. Heavy recovery can be used when light wrecker access is insufficient. He said 2 sentences that opened a door in my head. "Your driveway's narrow," he said, looking at the pictures. "Light wrecker can't angle in past your mailbox without tearing up your lawn." Then how? He smiled like a person who loves a challenge on the right side of law. "Rotator," he said. "We call them to pick jackknifed semis. They can lift a car straight up and out without touching your grass. We've done it twice this year. You'll need traffic, a supervisor, and the tow company's consent. But it's boringly legal. Boringly legal. 2 of my favorite words. I took the idea to Officer Diaz. She looped in her traffic sergeant, who looped in the city attorney, who looped in risk management. It took 3 days of emails that sounded like people moving furniture across a floor above you. At the end, approved, case by case, when driveway obstruction persists after citation with a police supervisor on scene. Meanwhile, the visor escalated her theater. She posted on the neighborhood page, "Some people think rules don't apply to them. The board will ensure compliance." A neighbor named Jerry, certified brisket whisperer and unofficial spokesperson for common sense, replied with a gif of a raccoon eating grapes and the caption, "Not how any of this works." The visor scheduled a hearing we weren't obligated to attend. We didn't go. We printed the invite and put it in the folder labeled "Paper We Keep" because we are adults. At dinner the night before the tow plan, my wife, Rachel, looked at me across a plate of roasted carrots and the kind of chicken our dog Maple believes belongs to her. "Do you really want to do this?" she asked. "It's going to be a thing." "I don't want a thing," I said. "I want to get my kid to school." She nodded. "Then make it boring," she said, "and kind." At 9 a.m., 2 cruisers turned onto Juniper and parked with polite authority. A city pickup with amber lights blocked the middle of the street. A rotator wrecker rolled in like a dinosaur that passed inspection, a massive red truck with booms that fold like a praying mantis. Sergeant Lewis, traffic, approached me with a clipboard and a calming presence. "Mr. Hale," he said, "you authorized us to step onto your property for removal?" "I do," I said, and handed him the consent form the city attorney wrote that felt like someone had replaced my heart with a notary stamp. The tow operator, Cindy, hair in a braid, eyes that said she'd been to more weird scenes than Facebook, walked the angles. "We'll soft strap the axles, float it up, pivot, and set it on the street," she said. "Then we'll impound. You'll get a video link. For your records, The visor appeared the moment the outriggers kissed the asphalt. "You can't move my car," she announced, voice pitched for a balcony she didn't have. Diaz pointed to the citation stuck under the wiper from yesterday, and to the city code in my hand. "We are," she said, "lawfully. The rotator booms rose like a story you want your grandchildren to ask about." Cindy threaded straps under the SUV, checked, double-checked, then lifted. The car rose straight up, hovered above my mailbox, like a plot twist, and floated backward. My son filmed with the reverence some kids reserve for rocket launches. The visor yelled words that rhyme with witch and itch, and maybes I don't want the internet to pick up. Jerry, across the street, clapped once and then remembered he's an adult and stopped. The SUV settled onto the street with the grace of a conscious choice. Cindy hit the winch. The SUV rolled toward the flatbed like it knew the way. "Sergeant," Lewis looked at me. "You'll appreciate this," he said. "The mayor's staff just called. They're filming a PSA for don't block driveways at noon on the City Hall lawn, exactly because of nonsense like this. They'd love to borrow the visual." He shrugged. "Up to you. It'd be for 15 minutes, then straight to impound." I looked at the visor. I looked at my son, who was vibrating at a frequency that could boil water. I looked at Rachel, who has never flinched at a fight and hates spectacle. Her mouth did that sideways smile that means, "You're allowed to enjoy this." "Let the PSA have it," she said. "Then let the tow lot have it." City Hall sits on a square that hosts farmers' markets, speeches, and the time I spilled lemonade on a council member's shoe. The lawn is a rectangle of forgiving, sod where the city sometimes sets sculptures or stages. The mayor, a practical person who once borrowed our leaf blower during a park cleanup, stood in a windbreaker that made him look like a weekend. 2 staffers set cones, a camera on a tripod. Looked like a well-behaved bird. Cindy reversed the rotator into the spot they'd coned off. Sergeant Lewis briefed the mayor, who nodded in that grateful way people do when government gets to be useful for once. The visor's SUV rose again, hovered, and settled on the grass where the city had laid plywood runners under the sod. The mayor turned to camera. "Hi, neighbors," he said, smiling in the way that sells nothing and tells truth. "Today we're reminding everyone, don't block driveways. It's not just rude. It's illegal and can delay emergency responders. If you're in an HOA, remember, civil disputes don't give you authority to obstruct someone's home. We can resolve disagreements without blocking each other." He could have dunked on the visor. He didn't. He made a kindly, boring video that 30,000 people watched because 5 of them were very loud in the comments. We applauded politely, even though it felt like we'd watched a car do yoga. A staffer snapped a photo of the rotator with the mayor and Cindy. The mayor shook Cindy's hand the way you shake the hand of someone who knows how to lift what you can't. The city posted the PSA with a caption that didn't tag anyone or humiliate anyone. It just said what the law says and smiled. Then the rotator rolled the SUV onto its bed and headed to impound. The visor watched from the sidewalk, fists like useless punctuation. She did not wave. The tow bill, storage fees, citation, and a public safety surcharge added up to $743. The visor wrote a neighborhood post calling it theft. The tow company replied with a link to the city code. 3 comments in, Jerry posted a gif of a judge banging a gavel with the caption, "Not theft." When it's the law. The post went quiet. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Their attorney, real suit, real tired, opened with, "You may not obstruct driveways to coerce payment of assessments. You may not obstruct at all. You may not apply covenants to parcels not subject to them." He might have said other things. He did say the words risk management and renewal conditions. People who love pool parties do not like those words. 3 resolutions passed. Dissolve the compliance. Patrol. No volunteer approaches of homes. All communications in writing through management. Officially acknowledge non-subject parcels, including Lot 14. Cease billing and refund any payments collected under misrepresentation. Adopt de-escalation and city code training for board and manager. Commit to non-interference with police operations. Carla's beige voice sent a mass email with the subject line, Clarifications. It contained the rare HOA sentence, "We apologize." Rachel printed it and put it on the fridge next to a crayon drawing of a rotator truck that made me cry more than a truck has a right to make anyone cry. After the PSA, I bought Cindy a box of bakery donuts and dropped them at the tow lot with a note. Thanks for the gentle lift. She taped the note to the corkboard next to a calendar of sunsets and a child's drawing of a hook. Officer Diaz swung by with a fresh "Don't Block Driveways" flyer for neighborhood kids to color. "It's amazing what people learn when we make it boring," she said, sipping canned cold brew like survival. One afternoon, a man in a polo, different from the first, shakier, stood at my fence and took off his hat. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," he said. "I voted to start the patrol. I thought we were helping." "You can help," Rachel said, emerging with a bag of mulch and a kindness that looks like a system. "Saturday, 9 a.m. We're cleaning storm drains. The maple's been dropping leaves like apologies." He showed up. He scooped leaves. He brought coffee. None of that fixes everything. All of it fixes something. The visor stopped wearing the visor. She started wearing sunglasses that say, "I am a person learning to see." She sent us a letter through the HOA attorney without admission that included a check for the towing surcharge she'd publicly called theft. We donated it to the music program my son loves, and they bought 5 folding music stands with a plaque that reads, "Bought with the proceeds of a bad idea." When my dad died last year, I cleaned out his workshop slower than grief allows. In a coffee can labeled "Fuses," I found a note in his crabby block letters. "When people block you, build a ramp." He meant it literally. He also meant it like a life. The morning the SUV lifted, I felt something like a ramp under my feet, made of law, patience, neighbors, and a woman named Cindy, who knows how to lift what is heavy without breaking what holds it. At the mayor's PSA, a first grader named Ellie tugged my sleeve. "Did the car get in trouble?" she asked. "It learned a lesson," I said. She thought about that, then squinted at City Hall. "Did the mayor learn a lesson?" "Always," I said. "So do we." Here's what I learned between the garage door and the City Hall lawn. You can be right and still be kind. Document. Call non-emergency. Don't shout. Paper and patience moved a car more gently than anger ever could. Fire code is your friend. Driveways are access roads. Don't let anyone block them in the name of rules. Rotator wreckers are miracles with permits. If a vehicle must be moved without tearing up a yard, police plus city plus licensed heavy recovery can do it safely. Don't DIY bad ideas. City Hall likes boring heroes. The mayor's PSA wasn't a dunk. It was a neighborly nudge. That's how you change a habit without starting a war. The only thing better than seeing a car fly is seeing your street settle. We got our mornings back. The trombone hits first period again. The maple throws a shadow on a driveway nobody blocks anymore. If you like stories where clipboards meet code books and the hero is a tow truck with a city permit, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me your wildest HOA moment in the comments. I'll bring donuts. You bring the receipts.